Zombie films are pretty cool. Honestly. Honestly, they are. This one is probably the most famous of them. This one's probably the most famous of them. George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Except this isn't that. I'll get into what this is in a minute. But let's first start with Night of the Living Dead. Comes out, wildly successful. It is the seminal zombie flick for a good while. Frankly, still, even to this day, when people say zombie film, that's the first thing that they go to. Not for me, but again, I'll get into that. But Night of the Living Dead does so very well. The only problem is that there is a rights issue. I don't know the full story behind it. You'll have to go to a more educated YouTuber than me to find out. But while he wanted to retain the Of the Living Dead moniker, George A. Romero could not do that. Instead, what he followed it up with was Dawn of the Dead. This is what I go to for my zombie films. This is, in my opinion, the best. I think this one's great. This specifically is the second sight, every cut of the film in existence version that cost me like $30 a few years ago or something. It's a UK import. Thankfully, there's no region locking on 4K discs, so that's pretty freaking cool. I'm a geek for a lot of things like this. I know that I think that there is finally an American release of Dawn of the Dead. I'm not sure if that contains all of the cuts, but that's not something you need to worry about because the theatrical cut is the only one you need to humor yourself with. The extended Kane's cut is what the film premiered with. And George A. Romero feels like it drags a little in places, so this one tightens it up a little bit. And then the Argento cut, which is also sometimes referred to as the Italy cut, I believe, that one takes all the humor out of it. George A. Romero inserts a lot of humor into his zombie films, and that one has none of it. That one's, all of it's edited out. And normally I'd be like, okay, it's a horror movie, so I can understand where the lack of humor might be good. No, it deliberately is a worse edition. Theatrical cut is the only one you need to worry about. It's the only one you need to deal with. But Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, these are well-known films. I'm not here to recommend well-known films, am I? Sometimes I will be, but this is not one of those times. What I think is so great about the Night of the Living Dead legacy is how many offshoots it spawned. I have a few of them. So Dawn of the Dead comes out, but the other one that was spawned off of Night of the Living Dead is Return of the Living Dead. And this one's fun. This is a fun, humorous, silly film. I love it. I do love this one. It's a different vibe than Dawn of the Dead, but it's fun and I really enjoy it. I feel like I've already said that with different words, but that's okay. That's a lot of what I do. Night of the Living Dead is fun. It is getting a 4K release, I believe, sometime this month. Maybe the day this goes up. I don't know. I don't have that information memorized. I swear, I know I have a lot of stupid, useless information memorized. The release date of the 4K release of this one is not one of those things that I have memorized. But it's a good film. And this one has like 3 sequels. It has Night of the Living Dead Part 2, which does have the same actors, even though, spoiler alert, everyone dies in this film. They're all just playing different characters. A few of them are playing different characters. It's not the entirety of the cast returning. It's like 2 actors returning to reprise different roles as a little homage to the first film. And then the third one is not good at all. I believe there's a 4th one. Haven't seen it because the third one really just turned me off from the rest of the series. But Return of the Living Dead 1 and Return of the Living Dead 2 get my seal of approval. I do enjoy them as films. And you'll notice that, again, Night of the Living Dead comes out. Return of the Living Dead, that's what's using the moniker that George A. Romero wanted to use. Dawn of the Dead. No Living Dead, of the Dead. interesting naming schemes that for some reason or another could not be used. I don't know. I don't understand it. Back on to George A. Romero's series, he had a number of films following Dawn of the Dead. The first one of that was Day of the Dead. This one's really good. I do really like this one as well. It's a little bit lower to the ground, so to speak. It takes place in an army base, and that is almost the entirety of the setting. There's a little bit of a surrounding island place, but it's mainly in this army bunker. This one's mainly to do with characterizations, to do with the tropes of like how the military's handling it, so to speak, while they're researching how to deal with zombies. And there's a scientist, and the science team and the military are always clashing. Blah 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 blah. Pretty well done film. It feels like what a lot of The Walking Dead was based off of. These kind of interpersonal dramas, because Night of the Living Dead in this one I don't think is what Walking Dead was based off of. But let's not get into something completely different. And then after Day of the Dead was Land of the Dead, and that one's also good. And then everything after Land of the Dead, not worth watching. I think it's like Diary of the Dead, and there might be another one. I don't know, not good. Land of the Dead is where the Romero series ends for me. But again, in wild fashion, Dawn of the Dead premieres at the Cannes Film Festival in Europe. And it has a theatrical run in the rest of Europe. It does, specifically in Italy. It has a pretty good run. So much so that they commission a sequel. Well, they don't commission George A. Romero to do the sequel. They commission somebody entirely different. Zombie is the sequel to Dawn of the Dead in Italy. Not attached to Romero at all, officially known as the unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead. This releases in Italy. This is not really something that I'm recommending. I'm simply commenting on it because I think it's funny. I think it's a fine zombie film. It does have some interesting effects. The story is all over the place. If you like cheesy B movies, I think this might be right up your alley. But otherwise, it's kind of a silly film. It's fine. But given its roots, given the series that it spawned out of, not as good. Dawn of the Dead is the best to me. Day of the Dead is really good. I need to own Night of the Living Dead. That one's also getting a 4K release from Criterion. I'll probably get that one. I'm gonna get the Return of the Living Dead 4K release at some point too. I'm kind of a 4K snob. I like a lot of the detail that you see on film transfers to 4K. It's fun. It's fun to geek out about film and resolutions and HDR and Dolby Atmos and all of this stuff. It's a good time. Capping off, I think all of Romero's films up to Land of the Dead are good. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead. That series is good. Return of the Living Dead 1 and 2, also really good. Zombie, if nothing else is on and you want a cheesy zombie flick, go for it. Otherwise, don't waste your time. Yeah. That's dank for you.